All right, now let's move into the next topic. This is probably like video 3 or something like that. Okay, so let's just hang on. You've understood that the key to communication is connection. Okay, you've understood that the key to connection is to dissolve the filter between you and other people so that you can link, literally psychically, emotionally link. You've understood that. You've understood that the key to dissolving the filter is to come from a contribution mindset where you're actually able to step out of your own point of view. You're able to dissolve away your story. You're able to dissolve away your judgment, and you're able to get into their world and say, well, what are they really trying to say? It's an experience of generosity. So the contribution mindset is really an expression of generosity. I'm here to be of service to you. And that generosity opens up the space for a powerful connection to happen, which therefore allows the free-flowing transfer of information, content, nuance, all the different things that matter to real communication. It's a very powerful thing. What's incredible about contribution and generosity is that contribution becomes compensation. This is shown in the leadership space. I think it's chapter 2, where it talks about when you contribute to others, you naturally trigger the law of reciprocity, which means that other people want to give back to you what you've given to them. I mean, reciprocity is a very powerful force. I scratch your back, you scratch mine. We evolved to be a species rooted in reciprocity. I serve you, you serve me. And it's positive and negative. If I'm mean to you, you're probably going to be mean to me, right? If I'm great to you, you're probably going to be great with me. It's kind of like karma in a sense. So the law of reciprocity and the contribution principle go together. And so this is a very powerful place to be. Now let's go to the next piece, that the key to communication is connection. But how do you make sure you get into connection beyond the filter? And that has to do with something else I'll call get into their world, right? Which it really just means, what does it mean? Get into their world, right? What does that mean? Okay, connect. What does it mean to get into their world? Get into their world really literally means to stand in their shoes. You know, if you can't really understand someone from your perspective, the only way to really understand another person is to go into their perspective, right? Not yours, but theirs. There's an old phrase, right? It's like forever. The walk a mile in my moccasins. I have to get that phrase, but that's a really powerful phrase because it helps us to understand, like, how to, whatever it is. Okay, so get into their world. Now, how will we do this? And I want to introduce you to a powerful thought, and that is the thought called empathic listening. Like, how do we get into their world? It's all about the way that we listen. How to listen, okay? How do we usually listen? We usually listen from the perspective of, I got to get certain information so that I can respond in a certain way. So we're listening for information that's relevant to what we need to do what we got to do to get the hell out of the conversation or to get through the conversation or to get what we need from the other person. It's essentially a self-focused way of listening, and it's natural. That's how we survived. You can't focus on everything. You got to focus on what's relevant. And so that's why we listen for information that's actionable for us. But that doesn't create connection. Okay? What creates connection is get into the other person's world, listening for what the other person's trying to express or communicate. The way that you listen is very important. You can't just listen with your ears or your brain. You got to listen with your heart. You got to listen with your being. If you focus on your body, you'll actually notice that you're able to pick up a lot more information than just what the person's saying. And this brings us to the concept of empathic listening. To do empathic listening, what you're doing is you're actually listening for the full expression of the other person. You're listening to understand, as Stephen Covey said in his, I think, the 5th habit, seek to understand before being understood, right? So you're listening for the full expression. You're listening to what the person's saying. With words. You're listening to what the person's saying with their tone, their body language, like what's between the lines. You're listening for the what's not being said with words, but still being said with energy. And then you're listening for their emotions and their experience. You're listening